Hey everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Blood Bowl Formations Underworld. So we're having a look at every team in Blood Bowl, whether it's the rulebook, the Teams of Legend PDF, or the expanded NAF teams. And we're looking at setting up your drives. How do you set your team up on the pitch? What's the best formations for you, and why? So if you are looking to run an Underworld team, which you should, because they are amazing fun in this edition, or you're planning to play against them, or expecting to play against them, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at some offensive and some defensive setups, so you can kind of get an idea of why you'd set up in a certain way and where you'd put certain positionals to maximize their effectiveness. Anyway, let's have a look at Underworld setups. So the Underworld team got a ton of positionals in this new edition. They've got a Rat Ogre or a Troll. They've got 3 Skaven Linemen, 1 Gutter Runner, 1 Thrower, and 1 Blitzer. They can take any number of mutated goblins, and they can now also have snotlings. Now the thing about snotlings is they have the swarming rule, so if you've got 11 players on the pitch and you've got snotlings in your reserves, D3 of them get to be deployed. So we are going to assume that you've got 1 snotling for these setups, and we'll kind of point out where they would go. If you've got more, you can put more on. I like 1. It kind of gives you a bit of just 1 extra tackle zone, but obviously if it's the last drive of the game, get them all on the pitch. So first defense we're going to look at is the classic anchor defense. So this team doesn't play like a normal team. This team is probably the most unique team out there. It's a weird hybrid stunty team. You've got a few normal players in the Skaven and some very good players, and the rest of it is just stunty madness. So this is a proper tier 2 team. So positional wise, we've got S for the snotling, we've got W for the goblins, we've got L for the Skaven linemen, who are called clan rats in this edition, T is the thrower, B is the blitzer, and GR down here is the gutter runner. We will swap out the rat ogre for a troll every now and again to kind of give you an idea of that, because you run them very differently. So the anchor defense, when would you use this? You can use this defense against any team essentially. The reason for that is you are putting some of your strongest players on the line, but holding your positionals and your specialties in reserve. So we've seen the anchor defense a couple of times now. The whole plan here is you sell these linemen away. Now, against a very strong team or a team that is likely to dominate in combat, swapping the goblins for the linemen is a great idea. But if you're playing against a kind of mid-range team where their guys who are going to be on the line are probably going to be strength 3 as well, then the Skaven linemen are not terrible to put on there. It is going to be down to you whether you want the Skaven in defense or the goblins in defense. So that's why the linemen are there, is because that's kind of what they do. They've got more resistance, they're better strength, and they don't have stunty. So if people are going to take a punch, the linemen are probably the best ones to do it with. But in this situation here, you are going to sell that front line. Those linemen are going to get knocked around, so having goblins there is okay. They've got dodge, but it's going to be 2 dice. Goblins are more fragile. The more goblins you put on the line, the more likely you are to lose them. If you are running a Skaven team and you put Skaven linemen on the field, you're going to lose 1 to 2 across the game. So that, compared to maybe 2 to 3 to 4 goblins, is your choice to make. So in this situation here, what you've got is you've got those 3 guys there on the line. That's going to force your opponent to make blocks. When your opponent is on the offense, they are just going to get to choose where to fight and when and with who. So having kind of your middling players at least makes it a bit of a decision instead of just a ton of free blocks against goblins. So you've got a goblin on either side of your kind of box, your anchor. And the reason for that is your opponent is going to be able to blitz. It's going to blitz. They're going to blitz. If they come down here, they're going to hit a goblin, and the goblin does have dodge. They're going to get 2 dice. They may get 3 dice. That goblin is going to take a punch. But what it does do is it keeps your blitzer and your thrower and your gutter runner safe. Your opponent's going to have to go quite a long way around, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to get a good blitz on a blitzer or a thrower on the other side. They can do it, and they might, but they're going to have to expend players and activations to do so. Yeah, more often than not, that's a pretty fair trade. So having the gutter in defense keeps it safe, but also, once your opponent has moved back and secured the ball, blocked along your line and taken out one of your edge goblins, they're not likely to be anywhere here. They are likely to be in the combat zone here. Okay, no one's breaking through at this point. So that means you've got this goblin, this thrower, this blitzer, this guy here, and a gutter runner that are able to maneuver around to get in front of your opponent and to make a successful blitz. Now, there's kind of a strong side and a weak side. If you are looking to do this, the thrower is obviously the weaker of your kind of reserve blitzers. So this blitzer here is the one you want to kind of punch with. But you've got a rat ogre here, and the great thing about the rat ogre is it's got animal savagery, which means you will always do what you wanted to do as long as there's someone there to punch, and that's where this little extra dude, the snotling, comes into play. Now if there's no snotling, you've still got 2 goblins there, so if you want to blitz with your rat ogre, you will be able to do it every single time. And blitzing with a strength 5 frenzy police that comes with mighty blow is going to do great things for you. So wherever your opponent strikes, it is protected. So the rat ogre having 6 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is going to be able to take out anybody that wanders into this zone here, and potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to here. This is a massive box of death when it comes to your rat ogre. So your rat ogre is just going to have a great time punching anybody there automatically. This is not the rat ogre of old, where if you go for a blitz and you roll a 1, it's bad. If you roll a 1, it's going to punch one of your dudes, which is going to be a snotling that wasn't even one of your starting 11 players, and then it's going to go on a rampage. This is very, very good. But if you don't want to, you've always got the blitzer. So the rat ogre covers that side basically. The blitzer covers this side. You've got the gutter runner to go and be a support anywhere, anytime. You've got these goblins here with stunty and agility 3+, can maneuver absolutely anywhere they want. So the lineman on the line is good because they're more likely to take those punches than the goblins, but you can flip-flop quite easily. It just means you've got more strength in reserve but less dodge, or same can be said on the line. And to change it up ever so slightly, we've got the troll anchor here. So troll goes in the centre, supported by those 2 linemen. You've got a snotling in reserve, so even if your opponent manages to take out both these linemen, your troll's got a support to go for really stupid. You've still got goblins on the corner there, because actually them blitzing a goblin is fine for you. You've moved the blitzer into the centre to kind of play that centre blitzer role. You've got a thrower this side, the lineman this side, and you've got a gutter that can swing anywhere at all to get those 2 die blocks by supporting these guys. So if there is a breakthrough, there is nowhere that you're not going to be able to swing by, and potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... take this blitzer with one of these guys as a support to get a really solid 2 die block. So with a troll, the blitzer becomes a blitzer. With a rat ogre, more often than not, the rat ogre is your blitzer, and your standard blitzer is just kind of a follow-up. You end up with 2 blitzers. But the troll here plays the role of a massive blocker. So getting guard is going to help these guys out here and make them strength 4. That is why it's useful to have those guys instead of goblins. You can still chuck goblins on there. Everything we just said applies. If you put goblins on the line, you put the lineman there, and it depends on the type of team you're playing against and how much risk there is to take. For example, if you're playing against dwarves, do not put goblins on the line. If you're playing against, I don't know, something that doesn't have a lot of skills, though potentially nobility, when they put their guys on the line, it's going to be the wrestle or fend guys. Then your linemen are better off because you've got a higher strength threshold. So I guess it all depends on what you're facing skill-wise, but the positioning is true. Troll supported by 3 will make sure that when you react, it will be able to do so, and you've got more chance of it being left alive, and being left to activate. But everything we said about the secondary here, absolutely true. They can help themselves to those goblins or linemen, whichever you've positioned, and you've got 1, 2, 3 strength 3 Skaven in the backfield. This guy's got block. This guy is going to be able to support anywhere at all. Now we're going to look at the chevron defense here for the Underworld team. So we've seen the chevron defense before. It's pretty ordinary, and the difficult thing with Underworld is you don't have a normal set of players. You've got rubbish linemen and a bunch of positionals. Really interesting mix. So in this situation, what you are doing is kind of more of a stall defense. The other one allows your opponent to have free strike, and then you've got a massive maneuverability there. When it comes to this one, you are giving that line away. Everything we said about goblins is true, but having the linemen in defense here, in your reserve, the Skaven linemen rather than the goblins, is going to massively help, because this is the kind of defense you use to stop a breakthrough. So this is going to be more useful against faster teams with lower strength. Skaven, potentially humans, elves, stuff like that. Basically what you're doing is you're stacking tackle zones and saying, if you want to come through, you are going to have to fight. You're going to have to do it. Now, normally what happens is they will go and knock a corner out, So knock one of the edge pieces away by going support, support, strike, in, channel down. Okay? Doesn't always work though, because this person here then limits their maneuverability. And that's their best choice here. I suppose the other way they could do is go one there, jump in, blitz. But then, you know, you've got loads of players. And the whole point of this is basically it creates this wall. You give them the line. Now, goblins with dodge are going to be slightly more survivable than you'd expect. Unless, of course, like we said, we're facing against dwarves. But having this strength 3 players on the edge is going to mean that they are going to have to try hard to get a 2-die block to clear that way through. If they come through the centre, you've got a blitzer here. And with this lineman here and this blitzer here, this gutter is protected. So they can't get at the gutter without coming through a tackle zone. That is good, because gutters being dead is bad for you. And on the flip side here, they will probably want to attack this side with the blitzer because there is a rat ogre here. And the rat ogre being put on the other side to the blitzer is going to force your opponent. They are going to go the blitzer side rather than that. And you know what? That's not a problem for you, because the rat ogre, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, has a massive range. So you can put them in the center, but what it's going to do is make this more vulnerable. And what you don't want to do is allow an easy block through, because it's not going to be difficult for a fast opponent to create a hole and then tag your players. This team is interesting and it is fast, but it doesn't have a huge amount of actual agility. So if the goblins want to dodge away, it's 3+ with a reroll. The gutter runner is the only one that's reliably going to be able to fade away from combat. So if your opponent comes down and tags, you got a gutter free, tags, you got a gutter and a goblin. That's fine. Goblins have got good movement, gutter's got good movement, they'll be able to strike whatever. So interesting one here. You've still got that rat ogre and the blitzer free. Your opponent is going to be able to attack them, but what you're doing is stalling. And the kind of team you're trying to use this against is the kind of team that won't necessarily want to give you a good block on your turn. So they can tag them, but you are going to be able to move him up, get 2 dice there, go to town with the rat ogre and make them pay for trying it on. And we'll flip it around and have a look at if you've got the troll instead. So in this situation, you drop the blitzer back here, you've got the gutter back here, and you put 2 goblins in front. The troll goes on the line. That is the best place for a troll. Blitzing with a troll is not a great idea. So you might as well use it to use that armor 10, strength 5 and regen, and really just try and soak up some punch here. Having that extra snotling there to activate the troll if your goblins get melted is going to be really beneficial for you as well. You've got strength 3 in both the wide zones. You've got goblin there, you've got your blitzer on one side. This is your vulnerable piece here. They can come in and swoop in down here. This guy's going to be protected because you've got tackle zones blocking this way anyway. This goblin and this goblin are going to be vulnerable. Look for your opponent to strike through here, because clearing this goblin backwards leaves them in contact with a gutter. That's not good for you. But being able to follow back with a blitz, because if they blitz this goblin, they cannot base this blitzer, which means your blitzer is going to be able to strike at whoever comes through this piece here. And they're not going to be able to hit your gutter either, because the gutter is protected by these here tackle zones. So the gutter is going to be safe, and what it's just going to do is be able to provide an assist for this blitzer counter striking without actually activating the gutter. So if they try to come through here, your blitzer is going to be able to push them back, and then your gutter can fall back here to safety, move up here for another assist. Your gutter is your movement 9 adds 2+ assist piece. It goes anywhere you want and will help provide you assists. Interestingly, goblins are also very good at that, so be prepared to roll some dodge dice here, but with this mobile blitzer in the backfield, and quite frankly, some reasonably good players here, movement 7, strength 3 is very good to counter-strike, you are going to be well protected. But your vulnerability of the goblins in the centre, goblin on the line, kind of get protected by the troll. You have less strike back in this situation, and this kind of feels like classic Underworld more than the Rat Ogre version. But your opponent is going to have to take that first strike. You've got strong edges, which means they're probably going to come through the middle. And when they come through the middle, you've got numbers to use to your advantage. And if you're playing against a fast, agile team that wants to score quickly, you can always go back to the column defense. And in fact, the column defense is also used to stop cages. So as an opening setup, as an opening formation, your opponent is going to have absolutely no way to cruise. Oh, that's gone wrong. That's the wrong screen. That's hilarious. They're going to have no way to cruise down the center. They can blitz this goblin away, but there's more tackle zones there. They can blitz him away, there's more tackle zones away. The only way they can do it is by clearing out the centre. Now, don't get me wrong, there's only Skaven linemen. They can do that. But if they clear out that centre and then create a channel for themselves, all they're going to end up doing is having 1, 2, 3, 4 Skaven bounce back down. And by the way, this is a Rat Ogre. So you've got 2 reserve blitzers there. One is a monster, literally, and one is one of the most consistent players in the game. Okay, so selling these goblins up the line is fine by me. They're going to get a block. It's going to be 2 to 3 dice. You guys have got dodge, so it's going to reduce the effectiveness of that. And if it doesn't work, you've got a mobile piece that can dodge out. So normally we'd be hesitant to get frenzied off the pitch here. I'm not too fussed when it's a goblin. And if you've got some spare snotlings, putting the snotlings here is even better. Okay, they're going to get melted, but that sidestep means you can just wander around and really upset your opponent. The important thing is you've got strength 3 piece there. You've got a reasonable front line, and you've got 2 fantastic blitzers that are going to be able to counter-strike any way you like. And you've already got column. So if these guys don't get melted, they can dress back here. And if you've got a cage coming up, column is going to slow them down a treat. Now let's have a look at offense for the Underworld team. So the 5-4-2 offense is one of the most standard setups in Blood Bowl. It is a bit more aggressive, I think, than some of the other setups. This is very much a Ben style play. And it's got 3 elements. The one is winning the line of scrimmage. The second is a strike core that is flexible. You can either drop back to support or you can blitz up and make a hole. And then you've got your receiving team here. So you've got a thrower and a gutter runner. So the 5-4-2 is looking to score in 3 or 4 turns. Your job here is ball lands. You decide a way to support it. Whether you move the goblin and the blitzer from this side or the lineman and the goblin from this side. One team protects the ball. Then you move up the thrower or gutter depending on how quickly you want to move it. The end cage here, you end up with a bit of a cage with a decent ball carrier and the ball is well protected. You don't even need to pick it up at this point. Probably the thing you should do last. Then you've got this line, and the beautiful thing about the Rat Ogre is, like I said, it can't fail. Alright, it can double skull. Everybody can double skull. But it will murder things. And if you've got a goblin on the edge here, you also tend to support these 2 linemen. Which means you can do 2 die block here, 2 die block here, and you don't necessarily even need to activate that Rat Ogre. Not until the last thing. The way you want to do this is wherever the ball goes is kind of push your opponent in the other direction. So if the ball lands over here, what you want to do is move the gutter up and protect. This guy is going to pick up the ball. You then move these guys down to protect the ball as well. You punch through this way and you move the line this way. 2 die block, he goes there, you follow up. 2 die block, he goes there, you follow up. Rat Ogre can go to town if he wants to, or you can bluff out with a Rat Ogre and swing it round. And then you can move a goblin into support and this goblin can go over there and protect your beachhead. And what ends up happening is you kind of turn the pitch and have a kind of screen where the majority of your team is this side with the ball, and you've got a Rat Ogre, some linemen and some goblins screening off your main force. And your main force then consists of a few Skaven pieces, including a blitzer, and they kind of end up being have to choose between striking the ball team or kind of dominating that moved now line of scrimmage. 5-4-2 is incredibly flexible. Ball ends up here, you've got supports, you've got a counter strike team, you push that way. It's a fantastic mid-range strategy. It's not super fast, but when you've got movement 6 and movement 7 pieces like this, you have the massive amount of flexibility. And the snotling there is just going to mean that that Rat Ogre will always punch things. And you just get the choice to frenzy that way, swing it round. You're going to dominate that line. It's fantastic. Alternatively, with Underworld, you can go for a weak line offense. So normally we set up on the line of slaughter and we try to dominate, and like we've just seen in the last frame, push it in one direction or the other to kind of start building up a screen, or push back and start building a cage. When it comes to Underworld, you've got speed and you've got dodge, so creating a screen is more often not the better thing for you to do. Now, you can, in fact, just sack off the line entirely. And the benefit of the weak line offense is it will allow you to flex even faster. So you've got a goblin, and preferably a snotling on the line. Now, you've got no strength. There's no way you're going to win this line. You don't need to. You've got troll, goblin, goblin. Now, this setup will allow you to go for a one-turn touchdown or flex left or right. This gives you the biggest versatility when it comes to Underworld. The Rat Ogre forces you to... It's a ground pound game. This one is the air mode. So you've got your return team here. You've got a thrower and a gutter. They can grab the ball and feed it to one of these goblins with a single handoff, probably, because movement 7 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Go for it. So if the ball ends up here, you're covered, and the gutter runner having movement 9 just gives you so much range that wherever the ball lands, you should be able to get a good return shot at it and get it to one of these goblins if that's what you want to do. Now, but look at the positioning here. You've got this line, so you can counter-strike, you can chuck an assist and actually start making some blocks if you really want to. But the most important thing is, you grab the ball and you don't want to strike out immediately. Troll, Blitzer, lineman, cage. Gutter runner goes off, thrower goes in the middle, sits there, you've got another lineman to tag here, and these guys can dodge away. You can disengage and make one block and make that block be your blitz action with your supporting staff here. That's really different. You basically start your first turn by moving away from your opponent into a cage. That's going to give any team one blitz against you. And if you're struggling on the strength front, which these guys kind of do, the best way to counterbalance that is to just not play that game. So by having a kind of cage here where you've got goblins, you've got a thrower, you've got gutter runner, you've got a ton of agility, you kind of step back and say, right, defense, make your choice. Which angle are you going? Which side are you going on? Because your team here is is move 6 and move 7. That is most of the pitch covered. So if your opponent is a slow team, Khemri, Undead are actually quite fast, but their linemen are pretty slow and their heavy hitters are quite slow. Dwarves, disengage, okay? Disengage and let them choose where to go. More often than not, what they'll do is they'll just give you a turn and make one blitz. Well, then you kind of have got your ball covered and all your players ready to go. And then what that means is you can choose where your 11 strike against potentially 5 of theirs. And that gives you a massive advantage because you then get to choose where you go and create your beachhead. And like we said with this team, the screen game is really good. Those goblins, every player on this team is a scoring threat. Dodge, 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 all with stunty. Dodge, move 9. These guys, alright, they're pretty vanilla, but they're also movement 7. So all you have to do here is drop back, choose a direction, punch through, and went 8 squares. Okay, with the exception of the troll and the snotling, anybody can score from 8 squares, and it's not going to take you long to do it. So, the weak line offense is going to save you a couple of people, potentially, but it also... it's going to take 3 to 4 turns to score, and if you want to run the clock out because you're worried about losing the 2-1 grind, weak line gives you that option and also trains you to go for that cheeky 1-turn touchdown. And that's the other thing, is if you set up like this, your opponent is going to regret not setting up for a 1-turn touchdown defense, because if they deploy heavy or they deploy close, you can just chuck a goblin over the top. Like, you don't even need to worry about giving him the ball first if you don't want to. You throw a goblin over there, they have to tag him, or your thrower, who is fantastic, grabs the ball and the next turn just runs to the side and makes a cheeky 3++ pass at range 6 to a goblin, and that goblin is gone for a touchdown. Okay, last one for Underworld is the heavy flank offense. So we've looked at controlling the running game and creating a screen. We've looked at basically playing a mid-range offense that allows you to also sneak in a throw teammate touchdown. Now we go full Skaven with the heavy flank offense. So what this team lacks in Skaven linemen from a standard Skaven team, it makes up for with cheeky cheap goblins and some extra snotling players. So the heavy flank offense works the same here as it would for most agility teams. We've got a scoring contingent separate to the line. We've got a strong but one-sided, so line of scrimmage. We've got a protection element here from the blitz, and you've got a return element here. So wherever the ball lands, you've got a thrower and you've got a lineman here. Now the Skaven linemen on this team are really good. They're runners for most other teams. That's what they do. You've got a thrower, you've got a gutter runner, which is the catcher, and you've got all these linemen become runners. Okay, that's halfway between a blitzer and a catcher. And that's what they're there to do. So this guy can select the ball, this guy can collect the ball, and you're going to get to go up here when it comes to handing off the ball. And you're controlling the line. So these guys don't do anything, okay? They're there to stop from the blitz, and then they can move down to secure the ball as well. But you are going this way. You've seen your opponent's defense, and you're going that way. and you've got a really cool angle here. You deploy these guys on there, they get support and they get protection, and they get to deploy very far up. And you've got a Rat Ogre here who's strength 5, mighty blow, frenzy. And you've got a Snotling to chuck there. So this guy is going to do exactly what you want him to do. And exactly here, what you want him to do is punch this guy there. And then potentially punch him again to there. And you end up with a Rat Ogre here. And when you've got to do there and a do there, this is gone. He now moves. He now moves. He now moves. These guys move. That's 5 players there. You've got a ton of movement here to get the ball to the gutter runner in the first place. You just swoop and create that cage, well, not even a cage, that screen straight away. Because this guy's movement 9, you move up 5-6 squares, create a launch pad, and allow your opponent to have one go at stopping you from scoring. And the great thing about this team is where you've got those stunty players, if you've got a goblin on the corner of that cage, that goblin is an 8-move scoring threat with 3++ dodges through everything. So it's really difficult to stop an Underworld launch pad attack because they've just got all that flexibility. Most of the time it's going to be a gutter runner, 2+, 3+ dodge to get the touchdown, and those are really good odds when you are fighting some pretty tough odds on the strength front. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful. The interesting thing about Underworld is they've got so many different positionals, it's tough to gauge where and why you want to use them. But you can see here that most players, even though they're slightly different, do perform the same function. The goblins and the linemen do a very similar thing, but the linemen and the throwers also do a very similar thing. So those linemen are your middle players, okay? They can go on the line and be blockers. They can be in reserve and be runners. They are the key to this team developing. Now, what you'll see from a lot of Underworld teams is probably maybe one wrestle and a couple of blockers, and you end up with almost 4 Skaven blitzers on this team. Then you don't put them on the line, you sell those goblins up the river, and you just can, which is crazy, start dominating from a combat point of view. But you can see there's a ton of different angles to play, so when you're playing against Underworld, be prepared for anything, because if they roll 5s and 6s, you're going to lose anyway. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you think of these setups, if I've missed anything, if I've drawn anything terrible on my Telestrator, because that is bound to happen. And we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Thanks for watching. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the show even further, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Or come and join us in our Patreon, link below, where you get early access to our content and monthly competitions. See you later.